Hello, everyone. You're welcome to the Women Lighthouse podcast. This is a community for purpose driven women who desire to live their dreams and aspirations. Our mission is to inspire you to live your dreams one day at a time while serving as a beacon of hope and guidance. We will be addressing various issues related to womanhood. Join me as we explore our journey of life together. I am your host, Women Hamilton. You're welcome to another episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. It's great to have you joining today. So today we'll be talking about a very complex emotion. We'll be addressing guilt. How do we manage guilt as women? Guilt is a complex emotion and it's particularly challenging for women because we deal with a lot of expectations, societal expectations, gender roles, cultural norms, and the likes. And women find themselves juggling a lot of responsibilities and they face unrealistic standards as they go on through the course of life. And these feelings of guilt can lead to so many things if not properly managed. So, our focus on this episode will be to throw more light on what guilt is and how it can be positively used or even negatively used. We'll also want to discuss the types of guilt that we experience as women and how we can manage this feeling of guilt. So, today I won't be doing this discussion alone. Joining me today, it's a sister and a friend, and a woman like you. She is Opeyemi Badmus. So stay tuned. You're welcome, Opeyemi. It's great to have you on the show today. So before we start, I
Thank
want to
you.
get to know you a little more. In a nutshell, who is Opeyemi?
Okay. Akwemi is a wife, a mother of four wonderful young boys. I am also a full-time working mom and I homeschool my kids.
So today we'll be discussing about a very complex emotion. We'll be talking about guilt. So when we talk about guilt, basically we're dealing with feelings of responsibility and remorse for actions that may have caused harm to others or maybe violated our moral standards or personal values. So we want to know, in what ways have you experienced guilt as a woman?
I think generally as women, we feel guilty of not being enough, like being able to, we feel we are not wifely enough, we are not motherly enough. We place some standards or expectations on ourselves that might be beyond our capability. Then we now start feeling guilty for not being able to attain those things.
Okay. So what are some of the type of guilt that we experience as women?
Sometimes we might feel like I'm working, I don't spend enough time with my children, like some other full-time housewives. Sometimes it might be the guilt of they don't always eat home cooked meals. Like sometimes we go out to buy, let's say we'll go to the kitchen to buy food. One can also feel guilty over it sometimes, depending on the standard you have laid down for yourself. It could even be the type of food they have to eat. It could be, I leave home so early. I feel guilty. I should be with them. I shouldn't go to work. It could be the guilt of I want to buy more toys for them, or even something as simple as I don't read them stories every night. Sometimes even I personally feel guilty for that sometimes.
Oh, okay, yeah, and even as women, I know especially for women, maybe who are just postpartum women, we also deal with body image issues,
Yeah.
self image, also self care. Sometimes as women, we don't take care of
Care of
ourselves, so we
yeah.
experience those guilt. Then also perfectionism, trying to compare ourselves with
Exactly.
other people, their achievements, their ambitions. So these
Yes.
are really, to add to what you said, some guilt that we experience as women. I know when we talk about guilt, a lot of people think about it being a negative emotion. In what
Okay.
practical ways can we turn guilt into a healthy experience as
Uh,
women?
First and foremost, I personally believe that no emotion is negative. Is it being angry? Is it being sad? They are all valid emotions. It now depends on how you manage those emotions and how long you allow them to linger. So, like you said, we can always transform our negative experiences into positive ones. It just depends on our mindset. Majorly, it depends on our mindset because it is the mindset that would give you that ability to shift ground and do the needful. Yeah, comparisons are not good. Yes, sometimes from comparing yourselves with other women, you you guilt trap yourself. Let me use that English. Uh, but sometimes it could be positive in the sense that by comparing yourself with other women, you can aim higher and aim to achieve better. In that, in that, in that zeal to achieve something better, you would be forced to make more researches, either by asking those particular women, by checking the internet, by thinking beyond the box and knowing how you can improve on your current level to become a better mother to your children.
Okay. Then on the other hand, dealing with guilt as a negative as an unhealthy emotion, how can we prevent guilt from being unhealthy?
First things first, you always have to remind yourself that even twins are not equal. If you are trying to compare yourself with someone, always remember that the both of you are not equal. Your circumstances are not the same. And no matter how close you are to the person might not open up 100% to you. Some women over the years have built a kind of system around themselves, them manage some issues. You understand? For example, I am homeschooled, I am a full-time working mom, and I still spend some time with my kids. Some people are full-time housewives and they don't spend, it's a different thing to spend time with your kids, like we're in the same apartment. It's a different thing to spend quality time with them. Some are full-time working moms and they don't spend up to 3 hours quality time with their kids. Now, if I'm a full-time working mom, I shouldn't, because there is this working class mom that spends quality time, starts guilt tripping myself. I have to think, how is she making it possible? What are the steps she's taking? Rather than just comparing myself with her, because we are definitely not in the same shoes. We are not experiencing the same thing. We don't have the same set of people around us. So that's what I would say, that though it might be a negative feeling, we should always try, even when comparing ourselves with people, to realize that we are not in the same circumstances. And at the same time, we should know that things can always be better depending on how we handle them. For example, something bad happens. One person can just sit down, whine and cry about it, and complain about it, while the other person takes charge and manages the things they are in control of. You leave those things you are not in control of, focus on the ones you are in control of, and look for how you can use them to make the situation better.
Yeah. So to continue with what you just raised, when we talk about taking charge, taking responsibility of our actions, how do we now balance this with forgiving ourselves when we find ourselves feeling guilty? In what ways can we balance taking responsibility and forgiving ourselves?
Okay, let me start first from the Islamic perspective that Allah, God said that if you stop asking me for forgiveness, I would wipe out the whole earth and create a people that will sin and ask for forgiveness. He's not saying, what he's trying to say is, he knows the kind of people he has created. He knows we are all sinners and we will definitely sin. However, sinning is not the end of the world. Like they would also say from the Islamic context that it is not your being a saint or being holy that will take you to heaven, but by the mercy of your creator. Why? Because all humans are definitely sinners. So the only thing as humans is to always seek for forgiveness and retrace our steps. Now we are taught that seeking for forgiveness just by saying, "Oh my Lord, forgive me," is not enough. But for you to run far from that sin and try as much as possible to avoid it. When you perform a sin, whether intentionally or by mistake, it is not for you to start announcing to people that I did this. In those days, I did this. The only situation whereby you are to mention it is when you know it is of utmost importance that the person you are telling about it is going to learn from it and not fall into the same sin. So if I know that, okay, there was a let me use a good example as mothers. One of the things that we feel guilty about is beating our children, beating and yelling. A lot of us fall into that offense or that crime of beating our children or yelling at them. So I will say, I've never beaten my child before, but that yelling, when you are stressed and you have more than a child, let's say two or three, and now shouting, maybe you went to work, you just came back at night. On your way back, you branched market to buy some food stuff. You came back, you greeted them, you entered the kitchen straight. You are tired. Remember, you're tired. You've been at work since morning, stressing. Probably one boss shouted at you. Probably you've not completed an assignment. You have to leave home early the next morning. You are in the kitchen cooking, and one person just says, "Mommy, mommy, he beats me." And the other person is crying. He's lying, he's lying. I did not beat him. He's lying, mommy. As he's saying he's lying, he's slapping his brother. You know, even if you don't want to be that child at that point, you are mad, you will definitely shout. As in the the probability that you will not shout at that point is
Yeah.
very, very slim. Now, occurrence, either immediately or after, you feel guilty, you start feeling bad. I beat this child. This child is going to be sad. This child may not even like me for that. Eh, my husband that doesn't even spend much time with them, he comes home, he's coming home with ice cream. He will give them, they will play with him. They always want to be around daddy. But me that I'm trying my best, I'm sacrificing. The kids don't prefer me because I'm shouting. You start guilt tripping yourself. The more you guilt
Yeah.
trip yourself, the more you withdraw. So you just have to take charge. Believe that they are your kids. They will always forgive you. Try to
Yeah.
engage them in more discussions. The more you discuss with them, the more they understand. So rather than feel guilty and not do anything about it, you can sit them down. There was a time I was a bitter. I still beat. Not that I don't beat, but when I say I was a beater, it was as bad as my first child when he was like 1.5. If he peed on his body, the first reaction was to first, you know what Yorubas call abara or
No, what does
iladi.
that mean?
That's abara is like a smack on the body. Iladi is a smack
Okay.
on the butt. I'll give him a
Okay.
very serious, one that might even take him off his feet, that I'll need to hold him so that he doesn't fall.
Wow.
I was like that then. And that moment I just said, yes, I know before that beating is not good. I've read books on beating not being good enough, but you know, it's a different thing to read, it's a different thing to implement, it's a different thing. Most times we parents have not been able to perfectly control our emotions or learn to control our emotions before we get into this thing called marriage. So we
Yeah.
just and think that's why the part of me beating him comes up. So in
Yes.
some cases, rather than just it has happened, it has happened. Sometimes I like, let's say I out of the blues just beat my child because he did something wrong. I'll call that particular child and say, beating is not good. They'll say yes. Sometimes they'll say, but you beat me. I'll say I'm sorry. That is because I wasn't able to control my emotions. It is my fault and not yours. However, it doesn't validate what you did. As much as we are trying to remove ourselves from the guilt and stopping it from holding us back, we are also teaching our children that they don't have to do something wrong to correct someone else's error. You understand? They could always ignore or do something better to show that they are the bigger person.
As we draw this conversation to a close, can you just tell our listeners some key strategies to summarize all we've said? Some key strategies in managing the feelings of guilt as women.
Okay. First things first, I think women generally have mood swings. I also experience it. Like right now, I can be saying I'm happy, thanking my husband, and the next moment, I don't know, there's something. Maybe it's the way he did not finish the food in the plate or something, and I'll just get angry immediately. But I think we should try as much as possible. Whenever those things come up, we should always try to imagine the good moments. Recently, there is something I did. Um, I was angry for whatsoever reason with my husband, and I just said, "This is the time to make the best decision." I just took a picture of the both of us together, like one of those happy moments we shared, and put it on the
Okay.
screen of my phone. In short, when I put it on my system, I see my kids, I see my husband. At the time we are laughing. So it's kind of personally has that effect of melting the stone that is building in my heart. You understand?
Okay.
So always remembering that bad times don't last, you know, tough times don't
Yeah.
last, but tough people do. Um, you should
Yes.
always remember that there are better days ahead. You should always remember that even avoiding issues or whatever does not cure or does not solve any problem. You know, you have to
Mm.
face issues from the root cause, not just from the surface. And another thing that I would advise is to build memories with your family. Try as much as possible. Money is good, but
Yeah.
your family is your life. Let me put it that way. We don't pray for ailments, but just imagine you fall sick the next moment. Those at work might be nice enough to contribute a certain amount for you for that ailment, but immediately after that, they don't remember you. One should be lazy at work. I'm not saying you shouldn't put in efforts, but don't let work be the reason why you do not create memories with your family. Then, when I talk of creating memories, some people might be thinking, we don't have money, things are expensive, I don't have a car. My dear, you can create memories with your family in your house. So that's my advice. Always try to create memories with your kids. They would always forgive you. Always explain things to them. Don't think they are too small to understand. No child is too small to understand.
Oh, thank you so much, Opeyemi. Today's conversation has really been very enlightening. Managing guilt as women really involves a whole lot. It involves understanding the underlying cause, practicing self compassion, like you said, setting realistic expectations, seeking support, and also redefining societal norms.
Yes.
And we've come to understand that guilt doesn't have to be a negative experience. We can also turn it into a positive experience by acknowledging and accepting where we are wrong and also seeking to learn from our experience and give ourselves some credit and love ourselves a little more. It was really nice having you on the show, and we hope to have you again, especially since you're a homeschooling mother. So, would want to know more about your experience as a homeschooling mom, but that will be in a future episode. So, thank you for joining in today, our dear listeners. And we believe that through this discussion, you've learned how you can manage the emotion of guilt as a woman. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. I hope you were inspired to keep taking steps towards living out your dreams. If you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to share it with other women and leave us a review on our social media platform, which is in the description box. Also, feel free to subscribe to our channel to get notified of new episodes. Till I come your way on our next episode, keep living, keep dreaming. Bye for now.